Pretty spiritual.
Do you ever feel like life suddenly just slows down?
Plans stall, old lessons come back around, and you're forced to deal with things that you've been avoiding.
Some people believe that that's exactly what Saturn retrograde is designed to do.
But before we talk about Saturn itself, we have to ask a much bigger question. What actually is a retrograde?
Today we're breaking down what retrogrades actually are, why they're so misunderstood, what Saturn actually represents, and how you can use this time for a period of growth rather than fearing it.
Hi, I'm Shay.
And I'm Amy.
And welcome back to another episode of Pretty Spiritual.
So, Hun, what actually is a retrograde?
So a retrograde is essentially an optical illusion where a planet appears to be moving backwards from the Earth's perspective. It's not actually moving backwards, it just appears it from our view. But in astrology, it represents pausing, reflecting, slowing down, and not charging ahead with projects and any other major life decisions as such.
So talk to us a little bit about Saturn itself. What does Saturn represent?
So Saturn is seen essentially as the teacher, the master teacher of the zodiacs. It's responsible for your discipline, your structure, your time. It's where we kind of have a look at kind of boundaries and limits and things like that.
Okay, so we've essentially got the planet, which is the master teacher, going into retrograde, which is a time that's all about slowing down and reflection.
Yeah.
So when is this actually happening?
So this has just happened. So Saturn went into retrograde on July 26th. And unfortunately, we're going to be sat in retrograde until December. I think it's December 10th to be specific.
Oh, wow. So, like, that's a good 6 months.
Yeah. And
okay.
With Saturn in retrograde, it is going to impact some star signs more than others.
Okay.
So Capricorn and Aquarius are really going to kind of feel this retrograde, but it's not necessarily a bad thing because I think people do, when they hear a planet is in retrograde, specifically Mercury, for example, people start panicking, and it's not always the case. It's actually quite vindicating for Capricorn and Aquarius this time round, which is quite exciting. But yeah, for a lot of signs, there is going to be some lessons. It also depends where Saturn is sat in your birth chart as well. So if people want to know how to see how Saturn's going to impact them, the best place to start is looking at your birth chart and seeing where Saturn is sat within that.
Okay, that's very, very interesting. So you just mentioned that Aquarius and Capricorn will be most impacted by Saturn in retrograde. Why is that? And what can somebody who is an Aquarius expect?
So the reason that they will be heavily impacted is because Saturn is the planet that rules Capricorn and then also partially rules Aquarius as well. So it's their planet.
Okay.
So in terms of how it will impact both signs, Capricorns are going to be asked to stop carrying around dead weight just because they can handle it. And Aquarius are going to be asked to put solid foundation like into their like visions, like projects, things like that. A bit like me. And not leaving things up in the air. So if you've got all these big, because Aquarians are the dreamers, so they have all these big great ideas and things that they want to do, but it can, I mean, for me specifically, it's been very airy-fairy and I know that I've got to do something, but I'm now going to be asked to put actual solid plans in place to make that a reality.
So there's almost like this element of discipline there, of like
Exactly.
starting to put things into actual action.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there's a lot more kind of in depth you can go with how it's going to impact these two signs. Like there's the areas of like money and boundaries, and I mean for a lot of people Saturn going into retrograde highlights a reflection on, are you saying yes to too much? Are you energetically a bit downtrodden because you're giving too much? So it's about reflecting on those areas of your life where you could really kind of do with letting go of a bit more stuff.
A bit of an energy audit almost,
Energy
of
audit,
like
that's the word, yeah.
where have I got any energetic leaks, like versus what things are filling me up, and almost like doing a stock take, it sounds.
And it's like I said, you need to have a look at where Saturn is in your birth chart and what house that sits in. So for me personally, this sits in my 1st and 12th house as well. So the retrograde means that I need to focus on like my personal identity and then also my kind of things that are limiting me. So yeah.
So people need to check their birth charts, basically. I actually don't know where Saturn sits in my birth chart, so I feel like I'm going to be doing that after this episode.
Yeah, I think we should go through your birth chart.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's the same with other retrogrades. So we've just come out of Mercury retrograde. We are now in the shadow period of that. And that's about a 2 to 3 week period after a retrograde ends. And you see all over social media and people freaking out when Mercury goes into retrograde or Mercury's in the microwave, because it can cause absolute chaos in people's lives. And it's right. I mean, Mercury is the planet of kind of technology and intelligence.
Yeah.
So you usually have things like travel delays, glitches in like software and whatnot, typically. But what people need to have a look at is where this Mercury retrograde sits in their chart. So for me, it was in my 4th house, which is all about family, stability, responsibilities. So it really got me looking inward at what my current like living situation is. Am I where I want to be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. And I do feel like Mercury retrograde is more widely talked about.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that's because it happens more frequently, perhaps, than Saturn, but I do feel that Mercury retrograde is talked about quite widely. I think people generally know about it being associated with like technology and like whenever I'm having like computer or IT issues, I'm like, is Mercury in retrograde right now?
Mercury in the microwave.
Yeah, so I do feel like that's more commonly known, whereas I feel like Saturn retrogrades, certainly in my experience, are talked about less. I don't know if that is because they happen less frequently, but it's definitely good to learn a little bit more about it.
Yeah, and planets can go into like all planets can go into retrograde, and it's about how that impacts your specific birth chart. Of course, we tend to put emphasis on Mercury when things start going wrong, and it's like, oh gosh, I don't know if it's a social media thing, but it's actually not something to fear. It's like a time of pausing, reflecting, reevaluating. But I mean, some people are born in a retrograde. I was born in a retrograde, a Mercury retrograde as well. So certain retrogrades don't impact me, but it is depending on what house it's retrograding in. So yeah, if you look into your birth chart with such detail, you'll start figuring out, okay, it's not so bad, and this is what I'm being called to reflect on this area of my life. But then it also depends on your moon and your rising sign as well. It's not necessarily just your sun sign that has an impact, because I mean, this retrograde that's just happened, all 3 of my top 3. So I'm an Aquarius, Aries, and Aquarius and Aries were like really messed up with this retrograde.
This retrograde.
Yeah, Aquarius people cannot catch a break right now. Honestly, it's been like this for so long. And then if you're in a Saturn return, which is another, we'd have to do a whole different episode on that. Yeah, you're going to have some crazy experiences.
Wow. Okay, so for people who don't necessarily know what their birth chart is, people that just generally want to understand a little bit more about how Saturn retrograde might show up in their life, like generally what things to expect.
Yeah, so I think the kind of lessons that Saturn at a high level teaches us is, as I said, what are you saying yes to that maybe you don't want to be doing, what's kind of weighing heavy on you. So boundaries and responsibility, that's one. Long-term sustainability, and also your personal authority.
So why might people feel challenged during Saturn retrograde?
People will feel challenged because it's going to be exposing cracks in people's lives. So anything that is built on a shaky foundation, whether it's commitments that you have, projects that you've started, and maybe like an unsupportive relationship, doesn't have to be romantic, could be a family relationship, it's really going to start showing those cracks to you, and you're going to be forced to deal with things that you've probably been putting off. It's really going to highlight areas of your life that don't have stability.
Okay.
People are also going to feel stalled, and people don't like feeling stalled. So if you were busy progressing towards, say, a goal or a project that you're working on, and then suddenly everything slows down, and it can cause friction for people. But ultimately, this retrograde is going to strip away any illusions and really force you to focus and lay down firm foundations and to move forward to that goal.
So I feel like when people hear terms like slowing down, reviewing things in their life, starting to see the cracks, like all of those things can sometimes sound a little bit negative, a little bit overwhelming, and a bit like, oh, I don't want this to happen.
My life's going to be turned upside down.
Yeah, it kind of does sound a little bit negative and a little bit scary. So is there a way of reframing this and seeing this as a positive sign? Like, what things can we do, and how do we look at this in more of a positive light rather than seeing it as something that we need to fear?
Yeah, it's not a punishment. It's basically quality control on your life. And it's a time, it might not impact people massively depending on their birth chart and the areas, the houses that it sits in. But essentially it's a time about kind of cleaning up loose ends, refining kind of long-term goals, and just really sitting with where your energy goes. So it may not be a major life change for some people.
Yeah, this sounds to me more like it's about not necessarily like doing loads more, but being really considered and deliberate about the things that you do.
Yeah.
So I feel like that can be a positive, because it's like, stop doing everything and really get clear on what it is that you do want to be doing.
And to be honest, it's how you handle it. Like Mercury just gone, I now on reflection realize what that retrograde was showing me, and you know as well. And yeah, it was a bit chaotic and crazy, but you know what, when I realized it meant that I can actually pause, reflect, review, and that's exactly what I did. And yeah, that's all people need to see it as, not something that you can fear. As you said, it's a time just to slow down, audit, reevaluate, and just see if you're on the path that you want to be on.
Yeah, it's almost like a little permission slip to just pause for a minute.
Yeah, I'm happy pausing till December, to be honest.
Yeah, it's right.
Yeah.
And I feel like as we get into the more wintry months anyway, which can sometimes be chaotic, it's kind of nice to be like, yeah, we can just pause and slow down a little bit after all of the kind of chaos.
Yeah.
So if someone really wants to harness the energy of the Saturn retrograde, and they don't necessarily have their birth chart to hand, they don't know how it specifically will impact them, what areas of their life and what things could they review at this time?
So work and ambition is the main one. So does your current career align with what you want it to? Boundaries and energetic leakage, which we've already spoke about. So are you putting too much energy into something and you're not seeing much return on that? And then the big one I would say would be core routines and systems. So like your daily habits, your finances. Yeah.
And that's really interesting, because I feel like with your daily habits as well, if this is a time to kind of slow down and pause a little bit, it's almost, I would probably be looking at it as like, what are some of the small habits that maybe I've been wanting to add into my routine that I've not had opportunity to, and kind of like using this as a time to do that?
It's the perfect time to do that. So it could be you want to wake up half an hour earlier because you want to get a meditation in, or you want to go for a walk, or you just want to have more time to yourself in the morning. This would be the perfect time to do something like that, which is exactly how I'm going to be embracing Saturn retrograde. I'm going to review how I can enrich my life by putting in new healthier habits, or habits that will make my life feel more fulfilled.
I love that. We're refining.
We are refining this
in
Saturn
this
retrograde.
era.
Yeah, exactly.
In our Saturn retrograde era.
Yeah, I would just say to people, embrace it. It's a really good time to review and reflect on your life and see areas where you want to set firm foundations for a more enriched life.
I love that so much. And I feel like doing an energy audit is just such good practice anyway, because we do, especially when we've been in really busy, chaotic periods, we do so much and we don't often realise like what things we're doing that aren't really adding much value. So it just feels like the perfect time to be like, yeah, we're not going to be doing that anymore. We're just going to pour that back into ourselves. And I love that.
So I've spoke a lot about reflection and what people need to be doing during this time. So can you give any journal prompts or places for people to start if they want to start reflecting?
Yeah, so if I was going through a period of reflection, the kind of questions that I would be asking myself are things like, what areas of my life do I feel like I need to review? What lessons in my life or what situations keep resurfacing? Why do I feel like that is? What is it trying to teach me? Are there areas of my life where I feel like I need to set stronger boundaries? Are there people or situations that are having a negative impact on me? And are there things that I can do about that? It's really doing like a bit of a life audit and looking at all aspects of your life and really reviewing what's going on for you and what things are within your control to then go and change.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it's come at a good time as well, because doing kind of a 6-monthly audit on your energetics and your life generally is a good idea. So yeah, personally, I think it's coming at a great time.
Yeah, definitely, because we're going into, we're well into the second half of the year now, so it's almost like really setting the tone for what you want the second part of the year to involve for you.
It is.
So if you were to summarise Saturn retrograde and what people should and shouldn't be doing at this time, what would you say?
So in short, I would say don't panic. Just slow down, pause, and as we've said, reflect. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Pretty Spiritual.
If you've enjoyed hanging out with us, then don't forget to like, subscribe and follow along on our platforms to be the first to receive any updates.
We hope to see you next Tuesday, the 11th of August, for another episode of
Pretty Spiritual.
Pretty spiritual.